Hey, welcome to Humble Hearts Worship Company. I'm Nicole Scarborough, and let's dive in. Today we're looking at what is worship really? And some of you, this might be like totally elementary, but a lot of people use the word worship and immediately think music. Since a lot of people do that, I want to address that and talk about how worship is so much more and so not just music. And I will have some notes and some different things that I will read and share. So if you see me looking down, that is what I'm doing. So what is worship really? Well, I wanted to open with reading a quote by James Smith, who is a theologian and a professor. And this is what he writes about worship. Christian worship, we should recognize, is essentially a counter formation to those rival liturgies we are often immersed in. Cultural practices that covertly capture our loves and longings, miscalibrating them, orienting us to rival versions of the good life. This is why worship is at the heart of discipleship. Okay, so I love this because he really grabs at the fact that worship is everywhere, but Christian worship is a counter to the constant worship that is everywhere else and grabs for our affections. And Christian worship, thus, is the heart of discipleship. And so if worship is at the heart of discipleship, well then that adds so much gravitas to needing to understand what worship really is. So we inherently know that worship is the heart of following our teacher, Jesus, our master, and worshiping God, our Father, following him, right? I don't want to use worship to define worship. So we know that it's a weighty thing. It's the crux of being in relationship with God. It is the core and the heart of walking with God. But do we really know what worship is? And why do we just use that word for music? So since it's the heart of discipleship, we have to talk about it, and we have to know that we know what is worship. So I want to start with Matthew 8 in the Bible as we explore it. But before I go there, I just want to share that I really felt like the Lord told me worship in its simplest form is a response. Word for word, I felt like Holy Spirit said, worship is a response. So worship cannot be defined by any specific act. Worship is not encompassed by music. It's not encompassed by serving brothers and sisters at church. It's not fully encompassed by prayer. It's not fully encompassed by any one thing because it's a response. Tithing, prayer, serving, singing, all of those can be worship, but not a single one of those is the encompassment and definition of worship. Worship is a response, and it matters what type of response, because like we're kind of already hinted at, you can worship anything, you can respond to anything, but Christian worship is a specific type of response to a specific person, to the Godhead, the Father, Son, and Spirit. Okay. And so some of you might be like, okay, worship is a response. God told you this? Where is this in the Bible, Nicole? Great question. Absolutely. So let's study. I'm going to take one from Pastor Marcus Rogers. Always, like he says, always test and pray about what I'm saying. Don't just take what I'm saying at face value, but test it, read the Bible, show yourself proven, studied, and test it in the Holy Spirit and pray about it, and study the word for yourself. But why am I sharing this? Because I do believe strongly that this is what the Spirit has illuminated in the Bible for me. And so that is what I'm bringing forth. And so let's start with Matthew 8, which is an awesome chapter. on different responses to Jesus's authority that people have as they come in contact with him. And so in Matthew 8, verses 1 through 4, we see a man, a leper, come to Jesus, and then the same account is in Mark 1 and Luke 5. And in the KJV, it says that he worshiped Jesus. Now, not every translation uses that word, but it did stand out to me in the New King James. And the Greek, when he falls at his feet, it says he fell at his feet and worshiped him. And the worship word is proskuneo. And so proskuneo in Strong's Concordance is probably a derivative of another Greek word, which means to kiss like a dog, or to fawn, or to crouch or prostrate oneself in homage, or to do reverence and adore. And then recently I heard Brian Simmons, who, whether you like the Passion Translation or not, he has studied language and he loves Jesus a lot. And he talked about how that word means to kiss. And if you really look at that Greek and the context and how many times proskuneo comes up in the Bible, it's not just the kiss of friendship. It's almost always paired with bowing down. It's this holy, reverential, intimate kiss of submission and like, I come near to you. There is that intimacy coming near to Jesus, who is God. So there's an intimacy there, but it is very much wrapped up in honor and reverence. And like I said, so many times it's paired with bowing down. And so when this word comes up throughout Matthew, for instance, in Matthew 9, it comes up again when a ruler approaches Jesus. It comes up when the disciples are in awe of Jesus in Matthew 14. It comes up when the Gentile woman in Matthew 15 comes to Jesus, and this is the woman that says, even the dogs get the crumbs from your table. Proskuneo keeps coming up. And it keeps coming up not just in Matthew, but throughout the Gospels. And then I find it really interesting in the book of Revelation. It is used many times. And it, like I said, is often associated with falling down, but it doesn't just mean to fall down. We see that the Hebrew word shakah means to prostrate yourself, to bow down in reverence and to beseech someone. But proskuneo is just, it's like slightly different because it is often paired with that word bowing down, and it's two actions. So the Bible's not telling you someone bow down and then bow down again. So it can't just mean bow down when you look at the context. And Revelation 13:4 is a really good example because it says that the people proskuneoed to the beast. They call it, the Bible calls it worship, when the people say, it doesn't say they bow down, it says they said, who is like the beast, who is able to make war with him. So they are giving worship as they're saying these praises about the beast. Unfortunately, right, this is proskuneo to a false god. It's the beast. But you see the context of how proskuneo is used, not just for bowing down, but to give honor and reverence, even in what you say. And so many times this word is paired with the word fall down. And the heart of it, right, is to give reverence and do reverence to someone. And this is worship. And so to go back to Matthew 8, we see this man come before Jesus, and the person of Jesus demands a response from him. Jesus demands a response from everyone, and most people don't give him the proper response, right? But even his approach in Matthew 8 later to the two men with the demons that get thrown and cast out into the pigs, those demons immediately react to who God is. They don't give him the proper reaction, but like they can't not respond to who Jesus is. So that brings me to say, like, not any response to God is worship, but worship is a response to who God is. God demands a response, and the right one is to worship. Worship is the right response to who God as the Father, Son, and Spirit is, to reverence him, to kiss him, to be in awe of him, to give homage to him. And like I said, you can do that. You can worship, you can give reverence and honor and awe to anyone, anything. The people are doing it in Revelation 13 to the beast. And really, it brings me to a point of issue with worship. You can do it to anyone in so many ways, and that's why so many pastors and leaders have kind of like said this thing and espoused this sentiment and teaching of like worship is a matter of the heart. And that is true. They call it a heart issue because it really is, because you can worship anything. You can even, like the Pharisees, do good things that look good, and it's not true worship. Ooh, okay, so worship isn't just the act, right? Like it's so much more. And only God can really know if you're responding to him with true reverence and awe and homage. Only God knows. And then only God also knows if in those acts, even if it looks like homage and awe and reverence, is it really to him? Or is it to yourself? Is it to someone else? Is it to another thing? Throughout the Bible, acts of worship to false gods were many times like far beyond just a verbal praise or a verbal response, right? We see many acts of worship that were sacrifices, orgies, sexual acts, just a whole bunch of things. There was music and dancing and celebration involved, giving feasts, and all of it done in the name of their false gods, okay? So they were doing a variety of acts, but all with the purpose of reverencing and honoring a false god. And so this, I mean, people still do this today, right? You see witches, occults, those are extreme examples of like explicit acts that honor Satan or other false spirits, but all of us can reverence and awe and homage anything. For example, you can see how what we spend our money on can be a sense of worship, right? You spend money on things you love, and maybe you love them more than God, and you care more about them more than God. What we give our attention and our time to, it can be worship. It can be. How we serve others, what we do, even playing music can be worship that isn't to God. It could be to yourself. Or, you know, there are celebrities that they're garnering worship for themselves. And that might be a hot take, but like that, they're demanding a response. They are doing this to get people to awe and reverence and honor them and put them in the highest spot of honor in their life. So you can, that brings us to the music, right? You can give music to God as reverence and awe and homage, but you can be a musician and be doing it for yourself or for money, which in the end is really about you anyway. And you can garner homage and attention and reputation for yourself, or the pure in heart, right? Do it for God. You can feast, you can celebrate just like God commanded his people to do in reverence to God and in response to him and his commands and his love for you. Or you can do exactly the same thing and be making much of yourself and not God. You can serve brothers and sisters at your church. You can serve the homeless. You can evangelize and do all of those things for God. Or you could do the exact same acts out of obligation or a need to be seen or to gain reputation and reverence for yourself. Ask me how I know. I know a lot about doing a lot of service for the sake of my own reputation and not because of a response to God. So it really does come down to who you're responding to and why. And the proper worship, right, is in response to God, to give him awe and reverence and homage, and not ourselves and not other people. I wanted to add in that this weekend, I even heard a pastor put it really simply and beautifully. A pastor from Albuquerque said that you kind of see in Matthew 28 that after the resurrection, the only response that makes sense is these ladies' response. And it's like, we often respond in ways that don't make sense. But the only response that makes sense is worship. When you look at the person of God, the resurrection, the victory, like the mic drop that Jesus's resurrection is over sin and death and every principality and power. Like later in the Bible, it talks about how he has put them all to open shame. Well, wow. Yeah, his words were powerful. The only response that makes sense is to worship. And when you think about the position of worship, it is significant that proskuneo is often paired with bowing down, because it's a place of humility. It's a place of submission. And the pastor also said that on your knees is a really bad bargaining position. Like, you're not there to get something from God. And people do it, right? Like, you do end up begging from your knees in prayer often, but it's like, there's not negotiation. It's just, you are God. I am not. I am low. You are high. Like, that is not a negotiation position. That is the humble, like, I reverence and honor your height, your position, your greatness above mine. So yeah, I just loved hearing that recently. To kind of bring it all together, so I do think worship is a hot topic because, as we've just talked about, it's so common and integral to discipleship, and like, it is something to be thought of and considered in everyday life. It's so common to anything we do, because you can worship God or yourself or something else doing anything. And worshiping God doing anything you do is right. That is the right response to who he is as creator and father and sustainer and keeper. And so I can worship God in reverence as I love my husband by washing dishes, and I can respond to God joyfully cleaning and stewarding things that he has given me. And that's like the mundane, right? Or I could do these same exact acts in worship of myself or in worship of my husband. It's so nuanced. You can go to work and worship God by working unto him and keeping him at the forefront of being on time to honor him and doing excellent work to honor him and the gifts he's given you, or getting up again after a failure and trying that project or that presentation again because you trust that he's gonna show up. Or you can literally do all the exact same things, right? To make a great name for yourself at work. It's so nuanced. It's so important. And so it really is about our response. Who are we responding to and why? It's a response of our souls. And that brings us to kind of that next question of like, does God have a specific way he wants to be worshiped? Yes. There is a type of response he wants. More nuanced and more specific than even just this honor and homage and reverence. But that is a different discussion for a different video. And so thank you for joining me to really dive in and explore, what is worship really? Really, worship is the response that makes sense to God. Christian worship really is a response to who God is.